Uh, I find myself regularly diffing diffs. I do this very often. And something that happened in this MR was it was about to be merged, and then all of a sudden there were conflicts. And so we had to resolve the conflicts. And the way that this author was maintaining the commits of the MR was there was just one commit, and we kept force pushing and rebase and all of that. And so what I had done this time, which was different than times before, because normally what I would do, let me go ahead and open up the terminal. Normally what I would do is something like this. I'm always using vimdiff, but I would do something like git diff origin master, and I'd find the previous commit, which was this one. And then I would pipe the curl of this whole merge request diff. All right. But as you can see on the left, that previous commit isn't working out because I think locally I didn't have a reference to that commit.
Oh.
So locally I didn't have a reference to the commit, so it's just not working. Now I wonder if I could have used
showing you what the changes tab would have shown you, which is like the monster. There's been 1700
if I did compare with previous versions.
Yeah.
Well, like what happened was what had happened is I think previously I didn't pull this commit. So previously I think I just looked at the diff from the URL similarly of like what has changed.
Yeah.
And so then when we push over that commit, when I try to fetch anything, I don't know how to get a reference to the commit that isn't on the branch anymore.
Oh,
that was
gone,
my
right?
Yeah, that was
like it's gone.
Right. But since this MR only had one commit, I then realized, oh wait, I can actually just go to commit ID .diff. And so that made me change my local vimdiff thing. So I just curled this old commit.
Oh, that's
and it
a lot shorter and maybe even easier to understand.
Yeah, totally. And then I curled, I guess, the new commit or even the MR diff. I could just curl that. But look at what happened when I did that. There's a story to this. I promise. Thanks. Okay, let's get there. Sorry. And I can get very, I know as a driver I can get nauseating, so I'm sorry about that.
You're fine. Like driving is not something that I do often. It's hard.
So I run this and you see pluses on both sides mean that there weren't any change. This is being added in both situations. Pluses on one side is interesting. So here we have a new plus on the right hand side. And I think this is related. So when I looked at, okay, what's the history of this thing? This is what caused the conflict. And I think this is just, we didn't quite resolve the conflict cleanly, where we actually included something that was being removed and is unrelated to this MR. So running diff of diffs is really powerful at me just checking, did we resolve the conflict correctly and everything's smooth? Like what's actually changed? And I do this a lot. But I realized with this checking out a single commit, the curling of a single commit, there's a drawback. There's an assumption here is that the author is only maintaining just one commit on the MR. If the author had multiple commits, I wouldn't be able to curl the commit diff and get to see a whole picture of what's changed in the MR. What I think I could do in that situation is I think I could go to the compare revisions thing. And I think from here, I could possibly do origin master triple dot merge base. So this is doing the triple dot does the merge base diffing, and then select the leading commit. I haven't tried this, but I'm going to try it right now. So if I type in the leading commit here, you just let me do that? Okay. I press enter. I guess it's happy. Let's see.
It's thinking.
It is thinking. Oh man, let's go. All right.
Don't click it again. Resist the urge.
Ah, no. Why? What? This isn't working like I thought it was gonna.
Oh.
Did I need to swap my revisions? If I use the double dot, is that better? Man. Yeah, this isn't working at all.
Is that, you thought it would work like the one in the command line?
Yeah, I'm realizing that this oh yeah, so look at this. You got this kind of, oh, they're flipped. Ah, why do we have this flipped? Like I would expect it to do like master to this thing.
Yeah, why would it?
Exactly. Let's try that out. If I do master dot 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 to this one.
You have a typo in master.
Thank you. I don't want to compare mater.
Yeah. I feel like that's like definitely not the way I thought the URL would build out with the way, well, I guess like source and target.
Ah, yes. This is it. Great.
Okay.
So what I'm wondering is, can I do
Dot diff on the end of that?
Yes. Let's do it.
It is thinking.
Come on.
Oh.
Ah, no. Okay, I guess not. Oh.
But that first one looked cool.
Yeah, all right. Man, oh well.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of just highlights for me. Well, like let's finish up. Like, so when did you just ask?
Yeah, so then that's a good
Okay.
question. So then I just asked of, hey, did we intend to re-add this? And I linked to the commit that was just removing this. But then there was a little back and forth because I think it wasn't obvious that I was talking about this one versus the other one.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, as soon as you realize what happened, it's like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, we resolved it and we're good to go. So
I mean, I guess like for me, it really highlights like everyone does rebases, but when you're doing like some sort of interactive rebasing where you're like, oh, there's some merge conflict and I have to fix it, you need to make a decision like, oh, I'm leaving this thing in, this is the difference between what I have and what's there, and it's very easy to make a mistake and re-add something, because I actually caught a similar thing that someone had re-added something that was removed, but it wasn't because I did a diff compare. I had gotten like, I think one of the last, I was the maintainer. So there's like 66 threads already that have happened, multiple rebases.
yeah.
But I asked the question, like, I don't understand why this is being added here. Can you like tell me? I don't understand. And the response was that, oh, it was a rebase mistake. It was actually removed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm really glad I asked because it went through multiple reviews. I don't know when it was added. I see multiple rebases in here.
Yeah.
I really just don't have the time to go and like check every single one. And I don't think that people should, but I like what you did at the very end. They rebased it because of merge conflict, and you go look at that. Like that, I think is a really good step. But I was really glad I asked because, it was something that was removed for a reason and it would have like randomly reappeared.
Yeah, yeah.
Could have caused
And
a
and
bug.
sometimes that can cause issues if you change references or whatever it is. And
Yeah, I don't
um,
even, this was in the one of the libraries for batched background jobs for database migration. So that makes me
okay.
even more nervous from like something would have gotten re-added.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I had just asked a bunch of questions on this MR because you know, that's a pretty big piece of our migration framework, the batch background migration stuff. And this was a relatively, it looked like a somewhat complicated change for me, but I was glad I asked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great to ask. And I think it's great. I think what resonates a lot with me and what I try to um promote to people that become maintainers and in general is when you review it, you really need to review it from a clean slate and not make assumptions about it. Because it's very easy to just think, oh, well, other people reviewed it and said it was
Mhm.
okay. So I guess this is
Yeah. I almost passed by it, and when I was going by, I was like, you know what, let me just add this question and I'll come back and look at it after I've reviewed the rest of the code and
yeah,
see.
yeah, that's fine.
Um, but that was like the advice because I'm mentoring up a trainee maintainer right now, and I'm like, okay, the key that I've been following is just like ask questions,
Yeah.
queue them up as you're going through things. That way you can like go back and delete them if you find the answer to it further down, but that way you don't forget it.
Yeah. And I think sorry, I gotta sneeze. Uh,
Bless you.
thank you. Um, I see like when you ask a question, you can spend the time looking through previous conversations uh to see if there's an answer to your question.
Mhm.
But I think there's something powerful to capture questions that arose from me just looking at the code. And if the code isn't clear, like why we did something a certain way, we should probably leave a comment there
Yeah.
of so for me, I don't totally look at it as a bad thing if a question has been there's a long thread about something, but then I come in as a maintainer and I leave a question that was probably previously addressed.
Mhm.
To me, it's like, okay, well, there's actually probably something we can add to the code to make it obvious about a link to the discussion or something like that. And that helps us close the loop of in our code itself, not
Mhm.
just saying what, but saying why. And that
Mhm.
that goes a long way.
I agree. I mean, I feel like also as an author, if you get a question from one person and you don't make any changes, and then you get the same question from another person, that's like almost like a hint that
Yeah.
you need to do something,
Yeah.
whatever that something might be.
Yeah, totally. Um,
Um,
cool. Yeah, the other thing was in this MR, uh um this MR was was good to go. Uh there was one thing that from a UX perspective that he was needing to change. But upon changing that, I realized that the path they were going to go down wasn't going to work. Um,
mhm.
so all of that aside, it's not super great to do these kind of calculations inside of the template, but that's a different issue that I kind of chose not to address here, um, given the fatigue of this MR and the fact that there's something else that we need to address.
Mhm.
Uh, the main thing was here at the input, we have just a text input, but the value that we need from it is actually an array. And so we just join by space into it, and then we split by space out of it. But for the way that this thing actually is used in the wild, is individual items can actually contain spaces.
Mhm.
So splitting by space isn't really going to work.
Okay.
Um, this is all behind a feature flag. So I kind of didn't know exactly what to do, and I kind of imagined I was trying to describe the UX pattern I see sometimes in the wild, but is very iffy of like you have a blank input and you start typing into it and it pops a new input for you. So you almost have like this infinitely growing amount of inputs you could add
Yeah.
by just typing
Oh,
into the empty ones.
like almost like autocomplete, but with uh, uh, um, like specific suggestions.
Not quite,
Oh,
but you do prove my point of like I couldn't find the right words to describe this.
yeah, it's hard.
And I was trying to leave like a suggestion of like, do we need something like this? And so rather than letting it go, I really tried to like, okay, I need to just make a picture of the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Mhm, mhm,
And so thankfully in Vue, like I figured out, oh yeah, this is how you can do that thing in, relatively small amount of Vue code.
mhm.
Uh, and I was able to leave a screenshot with the kind of thing I was talking about. So I was talking about this kind of thing. You add to it and it creates an empty one below it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I have no, like, yeah, that's not what I was imagining, but now
It,
that I see it, I'm like, oh yeah.
well, exactly, but it's not
It's not something that I've seen super often.
right. And it's hard for me to reference and talk about. So
Mhm,
the main point here is in communication, man, talking about the code with code and with examples like goes so far beyond me trying to find the right words to describe a thing. Um, the result of all this is everyone kind of agreed of like, yeah, let's handle this in a follow-up.
mhm,
So because it's behind a feature flag, that's fine with me. I kind of what I end up doing then is just indicating like, hey, this we need to kind of do this before we enable the feature flag. So
mhm.
I ping the stakeholders and stuff
Yeah,
related there. Um, so it was fine handling this in follow up because it's handling other things, and I understand we want to
yeah,
not block all the work with some notes like this, but that was the other thing that came up that I thought was interesting.
I like that. I started using patches for some things that have been helpful. Um, but yeah, I feel like sometimes, yeah, using code is a good way to communicate like a suggestion when I can try to make this code into words. Or I can just be like, here's 3 lines. What do you think about this? And let the person look at it and either make changes or just say, hey, that looks
Yeah.
good.
Well, because I think not everybody has the same language about
Yeah.
code. Um, I mean, even to the point of calling, like I think I'll call things pointy braces or whatever. And if I just typed out pointy braces to some contributors, it's going to sound really weird as opposed to just writing what you said, which could be a patch, it could be a suggestion, but even just writing a code block is totally can go a long way too.
Okay.
Yeah. Was there anything on your end that you thought would be interesting to share?
I only have 7 review requests today, so that's not so bad. Um, yeah, I don't know if you have anything. I don't have anything for review, like code review on the whole. Um, I was looking to see what MRs I had. See if anything more interesting.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I don't really want to do GraphQL ones, but
Oh, let's do GraphQL ones. I love GraphQL ones.
I don't even know. Let me see if I'm a GraphQL reviewer or something else. Oh, cool. I was given the maintainer and the database review. Like they should not do that. The initial database reviewer shouldn't be. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Terry. That
No, like it's the roulette somehow, and I don't know if that's a rule that it has,
I see, I
but
see.
I've seen it before, and I feel like it's unfair to the database reviewer to ask them to do both a maintainer and the initial database review, because the database reviews are hard.
Yeah.
The maintainer reviews are high pressure. I don't want to do both. So,
Well,
um,
do you think it's possible to And that's a really good idea. Like, I think it's totally fine if you can pass one of those off to someone else.
Oh, I will be.
Okay.
I'll probably take the database review because
I don't.
they did ask me just for that, but I'm gonna be like, can you please send it to someone else for the maintainer?
Nice.
I'll leave them a note.
As a contributor, if I see like, oh, this backend maintainer is also a database maintainer, I'm gonna be like, great. Can you do everything? I would totally do that.
I don't know if other people will say yes, but I will not. Yes. I'm not a database maintainer either. So
I see. Oh, so you're the backend maintainer and for the database review.
I'm a backend maintainer, and the roulette also has me suggested as the initial database review. And to me, that feels like
How
maybe that's
interesting.
okay, but
I
like
see. I see. I
I
see.
find the database reviews to be difficult and they take a lot more like mental energy from me. I mean, the maintainer reviews do too, but I don't, the database ones are always really difficult for me.
Sure. I mean, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a lot
Yes.
more familiar with Ruby and Rails and all of that world than
I mean,
somebody.
I thought I knew databases pretty good until I started working here and realized that like the problems that we have that we're solving for at GitLab are like big problems versus I was
Uh,
working at like startups and like smaller, just the amount of traffic and the amount of sheer amount of data that we have. We're in like the like big company leagues,
yeah.
which is a great place to be, which is why I signed up to be a base reviewer because I wanted to learn.
Amazing. Yeah.
But
No,
I
because
will
I
submerge requests for us to look at.
cool.
And I can drive if that's easier. That way I can leave comments
Sure.
and get my screen set up and maybe make it a little bit bigger. I don't do GraphQL super often either. So I really, these are a struggle for me.
Okay. This is
Um,
this is on the main project touching GraphQL
it
stuff.
is, it is adding, so I think this is the one. I also like this just gives me like, I don't know. I feel like front end changes, they have more. I prefer the back ends to be like under 15 files if possible, but I don't know what this is doing. So we'll just read
Let's
it and
see.
see.
Only one way to find
Close
out.
these other ones because
Yeah.
I
I really like the GraphQL backend
opened.
changes and front end changes. But one thing that I think is always it was so difficult to catch
Yeah.
is the rolling deployment support that we need to
Hmm.
encourage for these changes. So we can't have the front end and back end changes in the same MR, which is very
Oh,
weird.
because of the little the ship, right? That's like the build could have back end changes, but there's front end like
The front
requests.
end, once the front end is delivered, the front end can reach an old backend if we're in the
Okay.
middle of a deployment.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I try to think about that when I do reviews, but it's hard. It's really hard to.
yeah, I think the big rule of thumb is just if in the same milestone we're introducing backend API,
Mhm,
which the front end is depending on,
mhm.
we need the front end to be very flexible and like not uh the front end needs to have for a period support if the backend if it was reaching to an old backend is kind of the current approach.
I guess.
But we'll
Uh,
see. I think this is
how
just
does
the backend
yeah,
change.
just like how do feature flags roll into that? Because if things are deployed with the feature flag and then they're both deployed, is that okay? At least for self-managed. And
Um
this is a good question because it
that's
sounds like
a good question.
I don't know.
There's an issue regarding we're actually like not supposed to wrap GraphQL fields and feature flags.
Oh, it's just for GraphQL stuff.
No, so this is for any API GraphQL thing. It's
Oh,
not for like I think there's often a misinterpretation of this where people will think the front end needs to support different versions of Haml. And it's not for that because
Okay,
when the
so if
backend
the
is
backend code is like controller, HAML, old school, not old school, controller,
well,
HAML.
I think it's just the difference between yes, it's just because when the backend is rendering the view,
Mhm.
there is no way that the view is going to be outdated from the Webpack that's right next to it. So it's like when it's rendering the front end, that's not going to be out of sync. At
Oh,
render
it's
time,
when
we're
it's
good to go.
making asynchronous calls
Yes.
that are coming from
Yes.
whatever backend is serving them. Okay, so this is actually cool for search because we don't have anything like that. Everything's just refreshed every time you do anything in the UI.
Yeah.
But it is something to think of if we start to convert things over to Vue and start to convert things over to like GraphQL or API calls, which may be asynchronously done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. Let's
yeah.
let's check this out. Adds active record queries to GraphQL resolvers.
Yes. So I don't even like validating these things, but I will think about it. I guess I was just gonna go into the changes. Okay. Oh, it's removing stuff. I don't know why I was on there. So it looks like it's adding a new finder. So I guess from a database perspective,
Oh yeah, which hat are you wearing right now? Are you wearing the
I'm wearing the
back?
database hat, but I mean, just because I'm wearing the database hat doesn't mean I don't ask questions about backend stuff that's like needs a
Uh-oh.
question.
I see.
I try not to avoid them because I feel like, well, I might as well ask it just because I'm not doing that review. Um,
Yeah.
and query plan to the description or this.
Oh, is that a
So they're introducing like a new finder with a query that I don't know what this query does. I have no idea what the data transfer model does either. I've never seen that one before. So yeah, I'm going to ask, I guess like from a database review perspective, part of what you're supposed to do is to make sure it's like prepped properly and following the guidelines for like how to get your MR review for the database. I would say like 70 or 80% of the time, it's like not prepped following the rules or the
yeah,
guidelines that are in
yeah.
the which is fine. That's why we have the 2 review thing. And it's almost like I am trying my best to tee it up for the database maintainer so that I've asked all the questions that I can. I've given it my best shot as to give them guidance to get it to follow whatever rules that I know how. And then
Yeah.
at least it's in a space where they can look at it and they don't have to go back and forth as much.
Right. Right.
So often I don't see these in here at all, and I don't see any unresolved. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, this.
So they have run. Okay, so these are here. So, okay, I might come back and look at these. But they need the links.
What's something that would stick out for you on the query plan?
Well, I guess what I'm looking for in the query plans is it's like preferable to have the post like for me to have the links that has the little like the explain plan links. But what sticks out for me is if there's no data returned in the results. So if you look at these, I'm not great at reading the query of the results of like the explains, but it has this like actual section and then the cost. So this is what I think it estimates will happen. And then when you run it, this is what actually happens. It's really key that people use like the GitLab project or the GitLab group if possible to do these queries, because those are going to be where we see problems. Like on
Right.
GitLab.com. So if you come and you see that the actual is the rows are like 0, then that's like, usually I'll ask, can you redo these and try to get it to return some data?
I see.
Also, if the execution time is like wild, then that's a problem. You know,
Yeah.
because sometimes I've done them and I'm like, oh, this is like 40 seconds. Like that won't fly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
database timeout is 15 seconds. And also you're not supposed to have queries. I think the 100 millisecond is the goal. So things that are like 15 seconds, they would not pass through a maintainer review.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think this is hopefully okay. So maybe
Can we look
that's
at the aggregate one again? So this is the one that does the aggregate, the one at the bottom.
this one is group aggregate.
Oh, that one does it. Oh, that one does it.
Yeah, they have a project one. So this one looks like the group data transfer finder looks like it's looking at this project data transfers table, but it's looking at the namespace ID of the project table and then pulling that data. Yeah, I still think I would, it looks just based on this ID that this might not have been done on a very like large namespace. I don't know if we did this with the GitLab namespace, if it would change. But I know how we can find out.
Well, at the same time, the GitLab namespace running, does it run the data transfers?
I have no idea. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, so this kind of sounds like an import or an export kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Project data. Here, wait, hold on.
Looks like there's some helpers that have like some mock data stuff there.
Migrating projects. I don't know. Okay. It's
Oh
not listed
man,
as project data transfer in there, but
we're really lost if we're opening up the documentation.
well, sometimes if I don't know how something works, I have to look for it. Yeah, I don't know what like the project data would be. It looks like it's looking at artifacts and packages and registry stuff, which I also don't deal with a ton. But those are two things. So I guess that would be, I'm interested to see if they did that locally or on the production database,
Yeah.
even if, I feel like even if the project doesn't return enough stuff, like it's still, the table size might not be very big. And so like, I don't know. I think it's preferable to run those through the Postgres AI, through the Ask, whatever they call it. I really miss the database lab channel in Slack, and I don't like the new way, but I think that's how we've been. This is where I get a little lost in these like resolvers.
So one thing that's interesting here is this isn't a resolver. This is it's one interesting thing here. I guess this is going to be an argument that gets referenced by like a field.
Oh, it's in the resolver module. Okay.
Right. I don't know if we have a separate folder for like arguments, but clearly it is confusing that this does live in resolver land when it's not a resolver.
Let me see. I guess we can try your thing. Let me
check it out locally.
Yeah, I can try your checkout thing. Oh, I'm even on Mac.
Yeah, we are.
Sure. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, this is, I don't know what's going on with this. Just gonna.
We went from opening up the documentation to checking out locally. This is escalated.
Okay, I don't remember how to do the thing.
Yeah, I do. What I do is I curl the MR URL.
Oh, I bet I have it in my history.
Yeah, that's it.
I know I wrote it down somewhere because I was like, I need to keep this. Oh no, why is it not happy? Patch does not apply.
Every once in a while, git apply won't work for me. And I'll run git am-3. I don't know. I guess it does a different kind of, well, sorry, when I say I'm gonna run it, I pipe the diff to get am.
It's like
I'm sorry about that.
Yes. Okay.
So
you go.
Instead of git apply, I'll do am-3.
Okay.
Which is for all intents and purposes, for me, it's like an alias for apply that's sometimes works. It looks like it didn't like
oh no, hold on.
For some reason it didn't like running it, and it seems like there's a stray rebase apply directory found.
Yeah.
So we might need to run git am -- abort and then try running it again.
Okay.
Yeah, for
I am
some of the
really
like,
having a lot of luck. Oh,
yeah,
it
so there
has
we go.
something to do with this tooling thing that maybe I was working on something.
Uh-oh.
That's fine. We'll just leave that there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So what was I looking at? I wanted to look at this argument file. That's not the right code. That's Golang. We're in Ruby. Just close all those. Close all
So
those.
do we have a GraphQL like arguments, or do we have any place where we put arguments
Yeah, that's what I
before?
was like wondering.
I'm doing a project-wide search for
I
arguments
don't
inside of
see
GraphQL.
it.
I'm
So
gonna see if
maybe
we
if
do
it
anything.
goes. Hmm. It looks like argument from is always in a resolver. Oh, hold on.
I guess that makes uh well, actually, I don't know if it makes sense to put it in the resolver. Uh
I'm just looking to see kind of, it looks like maybe they're just
well, I
in the
guess
GraphQL. Mm,
yeah, looking at it, I see it kind of get placed all over the place.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Um,
But I do see some in mutations, which makes sense because it's like that's part of the mutation interface is the argument for it.
and then I also see it just in a concern, which is interesting.
Um,
Mm,
yeah, it's probably fine. I don't know if we have a good place to put it.
yeah, I
I don't
don't
know.
either. I do find this confusing because this one's under types. I don't know. Okay, it's
I,
fine.
I
I
realize that
will.
I just said it makes sense with mutations, but it also makes sense with resolvers because resolvers need arguments as well. I don't
Okay.
know. It's just interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna leave a thought. It's not blocking. I don't review at GraphQL that often. Confused about this being argument, but also being in the resolvers folder. Do we have a style guide or recommendation for this? Should we? Okay, I'm just gonna come back to
Nice.
that because at least like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not something that needs to be resolved, but I find it confusing.
Yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
retain egress for a year. This stuff, I really, for these, I usually ask for someone from the documentation team because they're like super specific rules.
Yeah.
And this is
That's
like end date of the data. Like, I don't know. I need to go back and look. So I'll probably go back and even though this is a database thing. So you said something that was interesting. You said you don't put feature flags in GraphQL. Does that mean that this shouldn't be here? Or maybe, oh, I don't know.
Let me think.
I'm gonna look and see if there's anything in the docs for
Yeah.
anything. Feature flags. The return value of a field, the behavior of an argument or mutation. This can be done in a resolver, in a type, or even in model method. It is recommended that you mark the item as alpha while it's behind a feature flag. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so that's good to know. I'll have to look at, I don't see any documentation here. You look at this piece on label.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to think what can happen there. Um, I think what has happened is that you just want to really make sure when you remove the feature flag, this can cause the rolling deployment issues because certain backends will have the feature flag.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know.
Okay. Let me ask a question here.
I'm gonna see if I can find a better example to link to for you.
Okay.
Feature flag.
Um, I guess like for me, they would need to like default enable it for a milestone,
Yeah,
right? That would be the way out.
yes, but because they'll cause an issue if, like, I mean, imagine a customer has disabled the feature flag manually or something, and then we remove, like, but I mean, these get into edge cases, but I mean, we do try to support this edge case, which is interesting.
I guess I don't know what this is. It's all about mock data. And where is this feature flag? And what looks like it's in this method too. I don't see it. This flag must already exist. Oh wait, no, it's in here in mock data. So where's that flag? That must be an existing one.
This is, yeah, this is what you'd want to link to.
Or is it in the chat?
Here's the URL you'd want to link to. Sorry, I added it to the Zoom chat.
Okay, no worries. I was somewhere. I got it. Got it. I'm going to put that so I can come back to my comment and kind of rephrase it.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, we probably should update the docs that we just read on GraphQL feature flag usage to link to there, because these docs look like, yeah, these docs are like, yeah, we got feature flags, go for it. And then somewhere else in the docs is like, well, be careful.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm going to put a note that like maybe we should update these. Should a link to this one here, and then if I get bored later, I can open up a quick MR.
Nice.
Okay. I guess for me it looks like okay.
Mock data, is that just something we're doing temporarily while we can't?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was. It looks like no. Okay, hold on. Where's okay, so data transfer. Oh, project data transfer resolver. But we're in that.
Oh,
Oh,
if
mock
if a
data.
feature is
Okay.
enabled to just mock the data.
I guess they have some other, this is part of this MR has this feature flag that's being introduced. That is a secondary check that's returning mock data. I don't know. I need to look at why we would want to do this.
I guess this is just to help the front end, right? Like while we're developing. That's my only assumption. But
Yeah,
I do feel like we're committing not test code, we're committing like testing code.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um, that does stick out to me. I would not expect that.
Okay.
And I would wonder, like, can we do a database seed? Are we like, are we missing something like a database seed that we can
Okay,
actually?
is this, I guess, I'm gonna just like, maybe just question is, this being introduced to front-end development on the back end isn't finished. That the mock data doesn't to be, I don't know, like, that's kind of like.
So like what I would with this, I would recommend, I've seen one approach for this kind of thing is the backend developer and front end developer share like share patches that help front end tests with just stub data. And it's like, here's just a patch you can apply locally to stub out these endpoints.
Okay.
And I think that's more preferable than introducing a whole feature flag.
To provide patches to devs to allow them to apply this code locally without needing an additional feature flag. Okay, that's a good point. I need to go back and read and see like why this is, if there's an explanation as to like
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
allows testing of query performance. Query performance, but for who?
I think it's just like if you scroll up to the testing, setting up and validate locally.
Yeah. This snippet to generate table data.
Oh, we should totally make a
okay.
seed for this, right?
Yeah. I just don't understand if they have this, what do they need the mock thing for?
Oh, see, and then it says ensure that the mock data is switched off on how to validate locally
Yeah,
to
that's what I
ignore queries.
I'm gonna ask. I don't quite understand like what, because it just says adds feature flag, which allows user to ignore queries and use mock data, but like it doesn't say why
Yeah.
that was done. So that is a really good question. I mean, I'm supposed to be doing this as a database reviewer, but also like, okay. Oh, I
Oh,
wonder if this is, okay, what is going on
this is where it all came from.
here? Yeah. Oh, so do we,
I guess previously it was all mocked out.
oh, why?
I'm imagined for the like development side of it, of like we just built the
Oh,
GraphQL part so front end can go and back end can then fill in the gap and like
oh, okay. This is very confusing.
um
I really don't like doing these GraphQL. I certainly don't like them. I find them difficult, which is why I guess I don't push them off to other people. I need to get better at this.
so these here.
Oh my goodness, it's all over the place.
The mock data.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we gotta just get rid of the mock data, right?
I don't know.
I think you gotta get rid of
I'm gonna ask.
it.
Um,
It's
You know
too
what I'll probably do is go
easy to
back
like
and look.
accidentally enable this on .com.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like someone could enable this. I mean, I don't know why they would, but like users do like wild stuff all the time where I'm like, I don't know why someone would do that, but they're like, yeah, let's do it. And
Yeah.
it's fine. That's, it's your right as a user. And I do strange things all the time with like software where I'm like, let's see if I can break it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad we did this MR because it was very helpful. I know we're almost at the end of time, I know, but this was helpful for me. I find
Cool.
the GraphQL stuff very different from my normal day to day, and so it is hard for me to review.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this I because I'm in the front end, this is one of the parts of the back end that I'll regularly touch. So I've become somewhat familiar with the GraphQL
yeah,
Ruby
I've
side.
still never written one here. I did a workshop at a conference like
Nice.
4 years ago.
Well, I mean, you said that search does the, we refetch on it does the old school, but it's
Yeah,
nice. Search is that
no,
means you
no,
don't
I
run
feel like
into API problems.
our front end person was like, we need to change this because we need to look at doing something else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
search has other things we need to fix first. But I do think it is a priority at some point for us to look at kind of not making the UI, bringing the UI forward to the where most of the GitLab UIs work. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but,
Cool.
oh, well, thank you. And
Yeah.
hopefully you have a good rest of
Appreciate
your
it.
day.
Thanks. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, we have a green on here.
Yes.
My family's all decked out in green. So.
Oh, good, good. My daughters were trying to find things that counted as green. I think this is the day of reckoning when they realize we don't have many green things.
My oldest daughter is really into dinosaurs, so we have some green
Ah,
on
nice,
for
nice,
the
nice. Oh, that's
dinosaurs.
good.
But
All right. Well, I'll
all
catch
right,
you later. Bye.
see ya, bye.